Alright, let's talk about an experience so intense, so absolutely gut-wrenching, that even your soul is like, bro, are we okay? Welcome to the dark night of the soul, a spiritual existential crisis where everything you once knew burns to the ground in a glorious dumpster fire of self-destruction and eventual rebirth. Sounds fun, right? No? Well, buckle up. So what even is the dark night of the soul? You ever have that moment where you stare at the ceiling at 3 a.m., questioning everything? Yeah, imagine that, but on steroids. Life stops making sense. The things that once brought you joy, hobbies, relationships, goals, feel hollow, pointless, like eating cardboard for breakfast. You might even feel like you're losing yourself. But here's the kicker. This isn't just a bad week or even a bad year. This is your soul hitting the factory reset button. It's a forced existential awakening, kind of like when your phone randomly restarts in the middle of an important call. Except the phone is your identity, and the call was your entire life plan. I know what you're thinking. Dude, this sounds like depression. And yeah, I get it. They do have some overlap. Hopelessness, emotional pain, existential dread. But the dark night of the soul and clinical depression aren't the same beasts. Let's break it down. Depression? It's like getting stuck in quicksand. The more you struggle, the deeper you sink. And no matter what you do, it feels like you're just suffocating in the weight of it all. The dark night? It's like falling into a cave, freaking out because you can't see a way out and eventually realizing you're in a hidden temple of wisdom. But first, you panic, ugly cry, and curse the universe for leading you here. See, even in its darkest moments, the dark night has an undercurrent of transformation. It feels like everything is crumbling, but deep down you know, this isn't the end. Something is shifting. There are moments of clarity, glimpses of understanding, weird synchronicities that seem to be pointing you somewhere. Depression, on the other hand, it doesn't usually come with that sense of purpose. It's more like a never-ending fog that convinces you nothing matters. Now that's not to say someone in the dark night can also experience depression, because, let's be real, existential crisis and emotional suffering go hand in hand. But the key difference? The dark night is a passage, not a prison. It has an endpoint. And when you finally crawl out of that abyss, you won't just be better, you'll be completely transformed. The stages of the dark night, a spiritual breakdown in 5 acts. Act 1. The discontent phase, also known as the this ain't it vibes. At first it's subtle, a nagging feeling that something's off. Life might look perfectly fine on paper, but deep down you feel like you're living in a sitcom with a bad script. The things that used to excite you, now they feel like someone sucked the soul out of them. You start questioning your purpose, your beliefs, your entire existence. Maybe you just woke up one morning and thought, what if my whole life has been a lie? And once that door cracks open, oof, it's a slippery slope, my friend. Act 2. The breakdown, also known as welcome to the chaos zone. This is where things get messy. Everything you clung to starts crumbling. Relationships, career, faith, even your own identity. It's like the universe just said, oh, you like that version of yourself? LOL. Let's delete it. Cue the emotional roller coaster. 1 minute, you're nostalgic for a life you can't return to. The next, you're so overwhelmed that you seriously consider running off to the woods to befriend a raccoon and live off the land. But hey, at least the raccoon won't judge you for ugly crying into your coffee. Act 3. The Abyss, also known as everything is meaningless mode. Welcome to the worst part. The void. The absolute black hole of despair. This is where you lose all sense of identity. Nothing makes sense anymore. You don't even know who you are without all the old labels, beliefs, and habits that just got stripped away. You might even think, what's the point of anything? And that's where the true ego death happens. Because the person you thought you were, that was never the real you, and your soul is forcing you to realize that the hard way. Act 4. The glimmer of light, also known as wait. Am I growing? Then, out of nowhere, a shift. Maybe it's a random moment of peace, a sudden realization, a weird synchronicity. But for the first time in a long time, something clicks. You start seeing the bigger picture. You realize all that suffering wasn't just chaos. It was a cosmic detox. Your soul had to burn away the false layers so the real you could emerge. Act 5. Rebirth and integration, also known as holy shit, I'm different now. And then one day, you wake up and realize you're not the same person anymore. You're lighter, wiser, stronger. You see the world through new eyes. And suddenly, life feels real again. But this time, you're not playing a role. You're actually living. You're no longer attached to old fears, limiting beliefs, or societal expectations. You've been through the fire. And now, you're the phoenix. Final thoughts. Why the dark night is actually a blessing, even if it sucks. The dark night of the soul is brutal, it's painful, disorienting, and often feels endless. but it's also one of the most powerful spiritual transformations you can experience. Because on the other side of it, you find your truth. You strip away all the conditioning, the false identities, the distractions, and what's left is the real, raw, unapologetic you. So if you're in it right now, hang in there. I know it feels like you're being ripped apart, but I promise, you're actually being rebuilt. And one day, you'll look back on this chapter and realize it wasn't the end. It was the beginning.